Right, Rosemary's Baby, a movie that I guess makes you want to re-guess on having a baby, I guess. Okay, so my history with this movie is I didn't see this movie growing up, mainly because of I think it probably had to do with like some of the fact that it is about you know a couple wanting to conceive. So I think just that the fact that that was the plot or part of the plot was kind of like a nope, not doing this one. So I saw clips of this growing up, mainly from like YouTube videos and like people saying like, "Oh, it's one of the scariest movies ever made." And I do personally do I think that this movie is one of the scariest movies of all time? No. But in the construct of, you know, being a mother, and the fact that, the second, a child is brought into the mix, you're, you want to protect, this baby at all cost. And all this crazy stuff is going on around you. So I would think from me watching this, no. But in the context of, of the mother, like Rosemary, yes. Yes, I do think this is scary. So if you don't know about this movie, it has a interesting history, but it's about this couple and they move to New York and they find a place to potentially live, and it's run by this couple, this elderly couple who are just like super sweet, super nice, and they've tried for a while to have a baby, and then some crazy stuff starts happening, including a certain scene that I can't say what happens because YouTube's strict guidelines nowadays won't allow me to say it. But it begins with the letter R and ends with E. But, some crazy stuff starts happening. So this movie has an interesting history if you don't know anything about it. So this movie is directed by Roman Polanski, who wasn't the nicest guy and the greatest guy, but Mia Farrow, who plays Rosemary, while they were filming, Frank Sinatra, who she was married to, showed up on set and literally handed her divorce papers, because that's a very classy gentleman act right there. And Farrow was like, I can't do this. And Polanski said, like, you're the only one who can do this. So she stuck around and, powered through it. And she did, because she gave a really awesome, great performance. But also, if you don't know about Roman Polanski, he was married to Sharon Tate. And right after this movie was when the Manson family showed up. And I won't go into details on that because there's so many different sources you can look at. But all that stuff happened. So this movie is actually considered to be quote unquote cursed. And I don't know if it's cursed. It's just that a bunch of crazy stuff happened while they were making it. Now, like something like The Exorcist, where like a lot of stuff like that, or even The Omen, sure, I can consider that cursed. But this was, just a bunch of just stuff happened. It was like, Kate, that was just bad timing. And then with Sinatra literally showing up on set, it was like, yeah, that's just bad timing, dude. That was just bad. And the whole thing with Sharon Tate and the Mansons, that was just timing, I feel. But besides that, but the fact for this movie being almost 50, no, about 60 years old, it still holds up. There are a couple of parts where it is a little slow, but you also got to remember, like, this was 60s, and something like this really wasn't attempted. You really, it was a gamble, because, you know, the your main character of the movie is treated like crap, and also she gets, I won't say the word, but she gets sexually assaulted by something of this, not of this world, and something from HL double hockey sticks. So I, when I eventually saw this, I was already in the mindset of, like, okay, I already know, like, the ending, because that was spoiled for me. I know, like some moments. I watched it through and was like, okay, I have context. But knowing all that already, it didn't, it didn't factor my thoughts on it. It wasn't like oh God, I know this. I know how this is going to go. It was more like okay, I know where this goes, but I don't know where this goes, and I want to know where it goes. I know the result, but I want to see where this goes. And this movie does a really, really great job at doing that. And, also doing it in the time period that they did it in, which was 68, I believe. It was very, like, this hasn't been done before. I mean, you can't really go to a studio during that time and say, okay, so this couple moves in and they want to have a baby, and the wife gets assaulted by Satan. That's like, you can't really say that. so they were, doing something new that was shocking, and it succeeded. And now it's regarded as, like, one of the biggest twists, like, at the end. And it's just like, yeah, that sucks. That really sucks. But this movie, it holds up extremely, extremely well for the most part. Like I said, there's a couple parts in there where it is a little slow. Like, there's a little too much talking every now and then. But, for me personally, it didn't bug me so much, because they would say something or do something where it would get it quickly back on track. And I think this movie, while it's, I think, a little over 2 hours, it's really paced pretty well. And I always have a joy getting a kick out of watching people who haven't seen this before. Like, for example, this was months ago. I was about to go out somewhere, and my mom was watching it, and she was at the end. And I was just kind of, like, waiting for the moment for it. And she was like, uh-oh, well, that sucks. And I'm like, yep, it does. But it's just, of course, this gets an amazing. Is this a movie, like, that I would watch, like, repeatedly? Not really. But this is very, very good. And the fact that, it's kind of the only one that is good, because they did the Apartment 7A movie, which I thought was okay. It wasn't great. It could have been a lot better, but it was kind of something that was like, I don't really need to know what was going on before this. And that was part of the mystery of this, was, like, there's no background. And it was like, for them to explain it, it was like, hey, now you just took it away. And there was nothing. Well, it's interesting. It's like that's kind of what I thought. It was kind of the same thing with, like, the Thing prequel. It was just like, everything that happened, I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought and expected happened. So you just threw it all in my face, and it's like, and you threw it all in terrible CGI, and it's like, nope, that's not sticking. Which sucks, because I actually kind of liked that movie. But that's another story. So, yeah, Rosemary's Baby, of course, gets an amazing. It's a classic. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend, if you're going to watch Rosemary's Baby, it's not like full on horror. It's more plotting horror, and it is slow burn, and a slow burn that really, really, really works. And so, yeah, if you haven't seen Rosemary's Baby, definitely give it a chance, because it is pretty good. And yeah, make sure you're confident in who you were having a kid with, because this movie makes you double think that.